So Vera was asking about the lab report of the unknown write-up. So let me see if I can share this screen. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So you want to make some discussion here, a commentary on the various tests,
Yes.
and get into the biochemistry that the lab book, for example, talks about, what the function, for example, of what catalase is. How does that enzyme work to degrade hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen? You know, you would
No, not necessarily. Like I can just like introduce like a catalase test and say like this is what a catalase test does, and to identify it, like this is like in order to like indicate like a positive catalase test, this is what you need to like see in order to identify like positive or negative.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, you would want to indicate what constitutes a positive or a negative test result. Don't comment on what your unknown would give. Of course, that would
Okay.
come in the results section.
Yeah.
But you're laying the groundwork for the reader as to what the test is testing for.
All right.
And what would one look for visually to determine whether it's a positive or a negative.
Yeah, because like I was talking with Emily and the other person, and she said like for like her introduction was only like a page, but like mine it's like I don't know, like 3 to 4 pages, because I had to write like on every single like lab. So I was a little confused. I was like, maybe I did something that I wasn't supposed to do.
No, I think the introduction is going to have a bit of information on each of those tests, like you said.
Okay.
The materials and methods, it should be, I would say, probably a shorter section, because you're just kind of describing what you did in terms of using a broth, using a plate, adding a reagent, etc. So as long as we're on the topic of the report of the unknown, do people have other questions about that you want to talk about? I assume you maybe started working on it over the holidays. Maybe not. It's okay if you didn't. Any questions on the format of the report? All right. I thought maybe we would start by talking about the lab. Again, I'm just looking to see who is here. And it looks like Jerry is not here. Is Corey here? I don't see him. And who else was in lab but not lecture? I forget somebody else. Anyway.
Rebecca.
Rebecca, yeah, thank you. Rebecca, right. All right, so let me have you reference the updated lab schedule, or I can pull this up as well. I imagine you probably have all, printed this off or have access to it somewhere, all right? So this week, we're scheduled to look at pH and the effects of UV light and alcohol. So what I did was I put together some videos, and there's a folder in the core shell in the content section. Do you all see that here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is exercises 26, 28, 30. And so here are the folders. So for example, 26, which is the effect of pH, it would be helpful to look over the procedure that we would have done had we met in lab. And again, this is a very short, it's like 1.25 pages long. It's very, 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 very short. But you know, you should of course read over the information provided there at the beginning of the exercise. And then it talks about the 6 different pHs that would have been tested and how we would have used 4 different microorganisms and inoculated those 4 bugs into the 6 different pH broths. Okay. And then we would pull them out and we would evaluate growth. And what we would have looked for is turbidity to indicate the presence of bacteria, right, in the broth. If it had been clear, that would indicate no growth. That the growth was inhibited by the pH solution. So I went back and I pulled up some data that was recorded last spring. So you now have access to this file. Again, everybody see where I'm pointing here? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So that'll take you to an Excel spreadsheet, which will list the 4 different species of microorganism, 3 of which are bacteria. What is this guy here?
I don't see anything.
You don't see the Excel spreadsheet?
No.
No.
Okay. That's why I'm always asking if you're seeing it, because we had some issues yesterday. And I don't know why you're not seeing it, but let me try something else here. So we're stopping the share. We're going back to share. Now do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason, when I open up different documents, that's why I'm always asking you guys, do you see it? Because once in a while, for some reason, it doesn't pop up on the share screen. So if I'm talking about something and you're not seeing it, please interrupt me. Okay, so here's the table of data. Again, the 3 bacterial species, and then I asked you at the very end, what is this?
Yeast. It's a yeast.
It's yeast, right? It's yeast. It's the same stuff you'd buy at the store if you were going to go make cinnamon rolls or whatever. Yeah, that's yeast.
Yeah.
And then, of course, here are the 6 pH broths that you would have been inoculating these 4 microbes into. And the way that we would have evaluated the growth or lack thereof is we would have kind of qualitatively assigned each tube, once it comes out of the incubator, with a value. If it was clear, we would have given it a 0 grade, and so on and so forth, up to number 3, which would have been really, really cloudy or turbid. Now, this is very quantitative. What might be a more accurate way of assessing this theoretically?
Using the machine. Wait.
Using the what, Vera?
No. That's not right.
Okay, I didn't hear you. Anybody, come on, you should know this.
The photospectrometer.
Right, exactly.
Oh.
The spectrophotometer.
That's what I was talking about.
That's what you were thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't know the name of the machine, huh? This is what we looked at, remember, a few months ago, it seems now, it's been so long, right? That we shown that light through, and then we looked at the percent absorbance, right? Or the optical density, same thing. That would be a more accurate way of assessing this. So just understand that this does have a bit of qualitative properties to the evaluation, but it's okay because we're just trying to get a sense of the pH preference of these different microbes and to see, of course, that there are differences. So I'm going to just kind of let you spend some time looking at this and kind of digesting it a little bit. But that's in essence of the data that we got last year at this time from the 4 groups. I would have broken you up into like groups of 3 or something, like 3 or 4. All right, so I thought, well, I can at least give you the data from another semester that we did this. Okay, so that's that. In addition to the spring 19 data for the effective pH, I also found a couple videos. Well, actually a video here. This is an article, a link to an article that talks about the effective pH. I think you'll find that interesting. It's not a very long article. It's very interesting to read. So I would like you to obviously read that article and watch this video. It's just a very short, like 2 or 3 minute video. She's actually done a bunch of different videos. So if you find this to be kind of helpful or useful, check her website out. She has just a ton of nice little short 2 or 3 minute snippets of microbiology, and I think she does some A&P stuff. Yeah. So that's what I put together for exercise 26. Okay. For exercise 28, let me go back to the content page. Did it pop back to that for you guys?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Here's 28, UV light lethal effects. I would like you to, again, reference the exercise in the lab book, read over the information presented there on page 201 and 202, and be familiar with the basic procedure and materials and methods that we would have used had we met. It's very straightforward. It's not difficult to understand, but just take some time and read through those materials and methods. This first video here, she does some very similar experimentation. I think it's this video. I've done so many cutting and pasting from all my classes, I'm getting them mixed up. But one of these first 2, I think it's this one, they use a similar format like we would do. Not exactly the same, but close enough. So read this first and then watch that video, this first one, and then check these other ones out too. These are more shorter, but I think you'll find them interesting. These last 2 talk about the practical uses of UV light machines as disinfecting agents in hospitals. Really neat stuff. So that's exercise 28. And then for 29, likewise, there's a separate folder right here. And I would ask you to reference the exercise 30 in your lab book, again, a very short exercise, and be familiar with the material presented and have some idea of what we would have done had we done it in lab. And then watch these 2 videos. They will not replicate what we would have done procedurally, but, and I looked around for as many as I could find that would be kind of comparable to what we're doing. Some of them are pretty close, others I just couldn't find anything. But I did find these 2 videos that talk about what alcohol, how it's used, and you've been perhaps reading about that in chapter, I think it's 11 or 12 of the lecture text. They talk about alcohol. When we say it's both an antiseptic and a disinfectant, what does that mean? Anybody know?
Wasn't it like the antiseptic, like before you get a shot? Because it's applied to the skin?
right? So antiseptics are used on living tissues. So you're halfway there.
And then the disinfectant, isn't that kind of like hand sanitizer? Because it has the ethyl alcohol in there.
Yeah, but that would be an antiseptic, wouldn't it?
True.
So what's the disinfectant? What's that mean?
Is that where they like, you can use it like on countertops and things like that because it
Yeah.
evaporates?
Exactly. You're using on an inanimate object, countertop, a surgical equipment, kitchen sink, toilet bowl, right? Those are disinfectants. You have them in the bottom of your sink in your bathroom probably, or in the closet, right? You all have that. Lysol. What else would be examples of disinfectants? There's a ton of different kinds of Lysol.
Clorox wipes.
Right. Clorox wipes, Pine Sol. I mean, there's a billion products you can buy at the store, right? That function as disinfectants. Generally, you don't want to be swallowing that stuff, right? It's not an antiseptic. It could be dangerous, and that's why some of these, you know, the real harsh types would it'd be recommended to probably use gloves, like when you're using oven cleaner. Well, I guess you could define that as a disinfectant, but it's really a cleaner. They always tell you to use rubber gloves because it's very caustic to the skin. So there are potentially some types of disinfectants, maybe used in industrial situations or in medical situations where, you know, you wouldn't have access to those products at Walmart, for example, that you got to be a little careful with using, but you would not use them on tissue, living tissue. So anyway, Dr. O talks a little bit about that in his, I think it's like a 6 to 8 minute video. These are all fairly short. Okay, are there questions on 26, 28, 30? I've had to, again, try to cobble together as best I can what I can find. And I think this is pretty good, actually. Any questions? Okay. I was just looking on at the syllabus here a couple minutes ago, and I noticed that we really did not talk about exercises 24 and 25, have we? Which was the effect of oxygen and temperature on growth. So I may very well put one or both of those exercises, add that on either next week or the following week. I'll give some thought to that. And that's my error for not having done so earlier, so I apologize for that. But I will make a note, and we'll take a look at those at a later date, 24 and 25. So the quiz we have scheduled next week, and if again you've noticed on the schedule, we do have our is it number 3? 4, quiz 4 is going to basically pick up with 38 and 40, and we didn't do a whole lot with those. 38 was various physiological characteristics tests. There were the Kligler's iron auger. Let's see, we didn't do that, did we? I don't think we did any. You didn't inoculate your unknown with Kligler's, did you?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Be familiar with what that auger is used for. I'm on page 271. Kligler's iron auger. It's basically used to evaluate fermentation and hydrogen sulfide production, which you might remember, SIM media. You're testing 3 different things there in SIM, right? What are the 3 things?
Indole, sulfide, and motility.
Right. So we already have been exposed to sulfide production in the SIM. And if you got, what color did it confirm H2S production?
Blue.
Black.
Black, right? Black. So this is just another medium that one could use to confirm a positive, SIM for sulfide. You could use Kligler's iron auger, it's called, and it comes as a slant. It's actually kind of a pinkish red color, and they talk a little bit about that on 272 and what different color changes one would get if you got, for example, a fermentation, positive fermentation, or a negative fermentation, or a positive H2S or a negative H2S. So just, be familiar with Kligler's and the various reactions that we would look for using that particular medium. And then they do review SIM there on 272, so you already have heard of that. And so not a whole lot new in 38, other than we did not use Kligler's for our unknown. But they do talk about hydrogen sulfide again, and the desulfurase enzyme that helps to convert the cysteine amino acid into the hydrogen sulfide gas and pyruvic acid. And again, you're looking for the production of the gas, which would cause, again, the black coloration in the auger. To test for indole, what would you add?
Methyl red.
No. To test for indole,
Is it Kovacs?
it is. And what does indole, if it's there and you add Kovacs, you're looking for a color change to what?
Red.
Red at the very top of the tube, right? Okay, the hardest question of all. A positive indole indicates the degradation of what compound? Ooh, hard question. As you frantically look it up in your book. I can tell. That's okay. You can look it up.
I remember.
Starts with a T.
Is it tryptophan?
It is. Very good. That's an amino acid. So a lot of these tests, not all, but many, are looking for the degradation of specific types of amino acids. And then the byproducts that are produced are what the reagents that you're adding basically react with and cause perhaps a color change, like in this case, in positive indole, which is a byproduct of tryptophan breakdown by the tryptophanase enzyme, would turn red. If there was no indole, what color would you see?
Like clear/yellow.
Yeah, I really wouldn't have much of a color at all. It'd be the color of the Kovacs, which is like a clear, maybe a slight yellow. Yeah, like you said. Okay, so that's 38. 39, I think I just had asked you to read, right? It talks about Berge's manual. It had some flow charts there that we talked about. Perhaps those would be helpful to you as you begin to narrow down what you think your unknown might be. And there was a table there on 284 that might also be useful to some of you. So not a heck of a lot there with regard to 39 that I can really quiz you on. We're gonna hold off on 24 and 25. And then today's 3 exercises, 26, 28, and 30. And then I would ask you, as I would had we met in person, to be familiar with the general methods and methodology behind the exercises we would be doing next week, which would be 31, 32, and 33. That has to do with antibiotic sensitivity testing and evaluation of antiseptics and disinfectants and hand washing, effective hand washing, or effectiveness of hand washing, hand scrubbing. So you might see a question or two just basically on procedures, materials, and methods related to those 3 exercises. And then I'm in the process of putting together, again, 3 different folders, one for each exercise that we'll talk about next Tuesday. So open the floor for questions on that stuff. Okay. So we'll turn our attention, I guess, then to.
Actually, I have one quick question real quick.
Sure.
For the quiz, is it going to be the same time slot that you used last time?
Oh, thanks for mentioning that. I was going to talk to you about the time. Let's talk about that. Make a note here. I forget what time we did last
I think you
time.
had it set for like 9 to noon last
9 to
time,
noon.
and that worked well, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. The question will be, what day should we do it? We did it the same day as we had our meeting, didn't we? On a Tuesday,
Mhm.
probably.
Yeah.
So let's do that then. 9. We'll keep that quiz open on Blackboard from 9 to 2 on Tuesday, which is going to be the 21st, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking about that, Julia. Right? You asked, didn't you?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
I have one more question too before we switch back to
Sure.
lecture.
Absolutely.
Just to clarify, for the exercises for the quiz next week, we need to know starting from what chapter, what exercises do we need to know?
38.
So we need to know the 4 from that week, and then
Well, no, not the 4, because we didn't do 24 or 25.
okay.
And 40 was really more informational. It had those flow charts and that table.
Right.
So mostly 38 from that particular week. And then we'll put 24 and or 25 on a upcoming lab, either next week or the following week. So the majority of the quiz in terms of points is probably going to be over the 3 exercises this week, 26, 28, and 30.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. And let me just again reiterate that, you know, it's important to look at the material presented in our lab book related to those 3 topics. The video information presented is also fair game for the quiz. So just make sure you watch those videos. Okay, anything else on the lab? Okay, let's turn our attention to lecture. And again, I'm sort of looking at the revised lecture schedule to give us some sense of what we're doing each week for the remainder of the semester, which really after this week, we only have 3 weeks and a day and we're done. So it's going pretty fast. Although in some ways it's going very slow too. I don't know if you guys are finding that to be the case. I mean, it's been almost a month since we met face to face, so I guess it's going pretty fast. So this week we're scheduled to look at chapter 12. Some of you were telling me earlier today you were having trouble opening up the PowerPoint in Blackboard. So I posted for actually the next 4 chapters, PDF versions of the PowerPoints. I wish I could explain why you're having difficulty, or maybe it's just a few people. Has anybody had any problem getting into the normal PowerPoint slideshows?
No, I haven't.
So Vera, you had no trouble getting into 12?
Yeah. Well, I did see like the PDF version, but I thought maybe you had like edited like the original version, so I just downloaded both of them, and I just didn't understand why. But
Yeah, the PDF versions are exactly identical. I just basically exported the pre-existing chapters as PDFs because Diana was telling me she couldn't get in for some reason, and you're not the first one that's emailed me, and I don't understand what the reason is, but so if you're having problems, the PDF, I've not heard any problems with opening the PDF versions.
Yeah, when you put it into PDF, I didn't have any problem.
Yeah.
So I don't understand it either.
Well, as long as we can make it right. Yeah. So as I think I mentioned to you guys before the break, in Blackboard, in fact, it may have been Emily who brought this to my attention, or brought this to our attention a couple weeks ago, that, let's see, this is lab. Sorry, let me get to the lecture. That there are these YouTube videos that cover the exact same chapters. It's the same book. It's an earlier edition of the book, but the figures are 99.9% the same. That he covers just like I would cover the lecture had I done a video for you. So I encouraged you to watch these, and I don't know. I hope you are watching them. You should be watching them. Are you watching them?
Yeah, I do.
yeah.
I will also just tell you as an FYI, do you see where it says here, statistics tracking enabled?
Mhm.
Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. What that allows me to do in a very sneaky sort of way, and I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to, I can see who goes in and looks at those and who doesn't.
Oh.
Now, I'm not saying anything other than that, but you know, you should be looking at these. Now, if you find that you can read the chapter and extract the information and follow my PowerPoint, and you do fine, then that's fine too. But I think, and I've watched some of these, and he does a decent job going over the material, which I think then will allow us to make more efficient use of our time here in the Zoom meetings to chat about specific aspects of chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15 that you are having, you know, some issues with or problems with, or you'd like to review or go over a second time or third time. I just think that may be a more efficient way of using our time. I'm not trying to shirk my responsibility as an instructor or anything like that by not lecturing. but it's like why reinvent the wheel sort of thing. So have you gotten into 12? Or we could even talk about 11 if you had questions on the chapter we did prior to the break. We can discuss any of that stuff. I guess, give you kind of an overview of what this chapter covers. Let me just open up for questions, open up for commentary.
I have like one quick question from like the previous chapter.
Okay.
I just want you to go over like the different radiation, like the ionizing and the non-ionizing radiation. Like that part just confused me when he was going over it in the video.
Okay. Let's, I need to see if I can do this. That was 11, wasn't it? Is the PowerPoint up on your screen?
No.
Okay. Let's try it one more time. How about now?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see, where in here did we get into radiation? Here it is. No. Here. Okay, so the primary difference between ionizing and non-ionizing forms of radiation sort of has to do, to a large extent, with what aspect of the electromagnetic spectrum is being utilized. Okay. And not to get into a great deal of physics here, but this is the electromagnetic spectrum, of which just a small part of it is visible to you and I. Okay, so we think of the colors of the rainbow ranging from the very long, longer wavelength red down to shorter wavelength violet. So when you pass light through a prism or through raindrops to make a rainbow, the light gets refracted, right? And it has to do with wavelength impacts. So when we talk about UV, which was described in this chapter as a form of energy that one could use to treat inanimate objects. We talked a little bit about that earlier with regard to the video that you're going to be watching. This would be considered non-ionizing. But when we get into gamma rays and X-rays, that's got deeper penetrating capabilities and would be viewed or defined as ionizing. So that's the primary difference. Non-ionizing, UV. So I could move this over a little bit if I wanted to, if I was gonna be super accurate. This is, well, it was pretty close, wasn't it? So this is non-ionizing. And this is ionizing. And you got to be kind of careful with regard to use of ionizing radiation. You wouldn't want to use that to generally bombard, human tissues in some sort of a control mechanism or a control method. Now we do use X-rays, routinely to check our teeth or to see if the bone's fractured or that kind of thing. But generally, when you go to the dentist to have your X-ray done to your mouth every couple of years, they put the lead apron on you, don't they? Do they?
Yeah.
If they don't, get a different dentist. Yeah, it's to protect you from the x-rays. I mean, it's low doses, localized every couple of years, no big deal, but you don't want to be standing in front of an x-ray machine every day and get x-rays. You have an increased risk of, cell mutations, cancer, and that kind of thing. So in essence, Olivia, that's the primary difference. We do use it once in a while to lengthen shelf life of fruits and vegetables, the ionizing form. Okay. Again, you're not subjecting living tissue to it, but you're trying to kill the bacteria so that you can keep those raspberries in your fridge for a couple extra days than you would have been able to do had it not been ionized. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure how many fruits and vegetables we buy at Reed's or Tops or Wegmans or wherever you go to do your grocery shopping are irradiated. Most people, when they see a symbol to indicate irradiation, what do they normally think of? Most people.
Genetically modified.
I'm sorry?
GMOs.
Well, no, I was thinking of something different. If you tell somebody, buy this banana, it's been irradiated, it has a longer shelf life, it's going to last longer for you, why won't they buy it, most people?
Think cancer.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't a lot of people assume it's radioactive, perhaps?
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people think of. We're not talking about, inducing radioactivity in the raspberries. We're talking about using the energy to kill the fungi and the microbes that would cause it to spoil faster. Again, I don't often see in the grocery stores where they advertise that. I don't know if they actually use it routinely or not. I don't think so, but it could depend on the grocer. I just don't know. But it has been shown to be effective in lengthening shelf life. In the same way that when milk is pasteurized, it lengthens the life of the milk. Now, pasteurization and use of ionizing radiation are two different things, right? But the idea is to lower the microbial load to lengthen the shelf life. It's the same idea. And lastly, I guess what I'll say is this talks a little bit more about how UV can be effective in sometimes treating municipal water systems where they run the water across UV lamps, or as you'll be reading about in one of the videos, they do talk a little bit about the use of these lamps in hospital settings as agents to help disinfect the room, or in this case to disinfect the water to lower the microbial load. Again, I'm not sure how many municipal water treatment plants utilize this. It would be pretty expensive to do, I would think, but that's why they use it. Did that help answer your question, Olivia?
Yeah, I just didn't know like what difference did you want and like what the difference was between them, and that clarified it exactly.
Yeah, a big difference is the wavelength of energy being used, basically. The shorter the wavelength, the more powerful the radiation is. And while UV can be somewhat safely used, one has to be careful of subjecting human tissue to excessive UV, right? I mean, you do that when you go out and sunbathe. That's why you tan, right? We've talked about this before. You should have heard about this in A&P. UV does cause the melanocytes to produce more melanin, to darken your skin, to protect itself from the UV rays. But we just sit out there in the sun because we want to get darker and darker, right? Little do we know we're increasing the risk, or maybe we do know, we're increasing the risk of skin cancer when we do that. Okay. Any other questions on 11, as long as we're here? About 12. I don't know if you've started looking at it yet. Have you? Diana, you said you started watching the video.
Yeah. Oh, that was 11 I started watching. I haven't watched 12 yet.
Okay.
But I did read it over a little bit today.
Well, 12 covers a wide variety of topics, but basically we're talking about how particular antimicrobics work, whether it's antibiotics, which is what they spend a lot of time talking about, the different types of antibiotics, or antifungal drugs, antiviral drugs. What's the drug do? How does it impact the microorganism? So this is a really interesting chapter that gets into how cell wall structure is impacted. In the case of many antibiotics, it is the cell wall that is targeted, or the formation of the cell wall, specifically the peptidoglycan, which you know is an integral part of the cell wall of bacteria. In fact, let me just pull up one of the figures. Let's see, this is 12. As you begin to look at the PowerPoint, I started off here with, in the second slide, sort of setting the stage with respect to, not that many years ago, a lot of people died from infectious disease. Things that we don't think about much today killed 1 out of 3 kids, 120 plus years ago. And so this photograph, do you guys see the photograph on your screen or no?
No.
Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the third slide in the chapter, and it was taken from the Spanish flu epidemic, which you've been maybe reading about in recent weeks. This is the polio problem we had back in the 50s, 40s and 50s. I can add another photograph to this slide next year, right?
Oh, yeah.
COVID-19, yeah. To just reiterate the fact that, yes, our healthcare system is a lot better than it was 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, even 20 years ago with respect to AIDS, let's say. But yet we still face, we're living through a very interesting historical event. And we still can't, as the United States of America, get sufficient protective gear to our nurses and doctors. I mean, it is, I don't want to get off topic here, but we think of ourselves as this progressive, wonderful first world country, which of course we are, but we're not always the best at everything, are we? So anyway, this talks a little bit about that. So this was the diagram. Come on. Why are you doing this? Can I move this? There we go. Okay, do you all see the mechanisms of drug action?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This gets at how different drugs, be they antibiotic, well, this is primarily targeting a bacterial cell, so we're talking antibiotics here, how they directly influence the biology of the cell, the bacterial cell. And the vast majority of antibiotics, and we're talking something like 60 to 70% of antibiotics are cell wall inhibitors. They prevent the formation of the peptidoglycan in the cell wall. And so if you can't make more peptidoglycan, you can't reproduce as a cell, right? You can't undergo binary fission. So you basically nip the bacteria in the bud and it can't cause more problems. You're killing the cells, they can't reproduce. And then the other major target, which would be probably 30% or so of antibiotics or antimicrobials, are targeting ribosome function. And you remember from earlier in the course, or A&P or bio, or whenever you've studied this, you've heard it many times, the ribosome is the site for assembly of the polypeptide. So if you prevent the ribosome from functioning, the cell can't make enzymes, can't make structural proteins, it can't do a lot of things. Proteins are critical for cells. So that's how it kills a lot of cells. It prevents the cell from synthesizing critical necessary proteins. Now, there are some drugs, a lot of the antifungal drugs target the cell membrane of a fungus, or maybe even of some bacteria. But you know, you have to think about this a little bit. Do our cells have cell walls? That's a question.
No.
Is that a question mark? No? Answer is no, they don't. Yeah, they don't. They have cell membranes, right? Our cells don't have cell walls. Do our cells have 70S ribosomes? Now, you might say, well, what the heck is a 70S ribosome? Well, you see here it says 50S and 30S. This is the top one's the 50S, the big, and the bottom is the 30S. Now, don't ask me why, but this whole thing, you might say, is an 80S subunit. Of course, 80S ribosome. It's not. It's a 70S. And I'm not prepared to explain why it's not 80, but I'm not good at math, so I'm going to call it 70. All right, so bacterial ribosomes are 70S ribosomes, and you combine both large and small subunits. In your cells, you have 60S and 40S subunits, which makes up what's called an 80S. So the point I'm trying to make simply is that if you look at bacterial ribosomes, they are different than eukaryotic cell ribosomes. So let's think about this for a minute. If I have particular drugs that I'm using to target cellular structures that my cells don't have, do I need to be as worried about side effects?
I would say no.
Correct. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about a cell membrane, however? What's the cell membrane of a prokaryotic cell composed of? Can you answer that in like 4 words? 3 words. 2 words. Phospholipid
There's a bilayer.
bilayer, right, with embedded proteins, right. We've talked about that. What is the cell membrane of your cells composed of? Same thing.
Lipid bilayer.
Right, yes. So if we use antimicrobial drugs that target cell membranes of bacterial cells, or say fungal cells like yeast, certain kinds of yeast, you know, can be problematic. It's not just Saccharomyces cerevisiae. There's other species of yeast, right, that can cause issues. You've all heard of yeast infections. Those particular drugs we have to be more mindful of, because they could also impact the chemistry of our cells as well as of the pathogen. So just something to be mindful of. So anyway, back to this slide. This is sort of an important part of this chapter, because it again gives you the 5 major zones, if you will, that are impacted by different antimicrobic drugs. And then what they also do in a very kind of nice way is they will list the specific groups of antibiotics. So if you get into this chapter and you're beginning to wonder, well, where, how does this particular group of drugs work? How does it impact the cell? You can always come back to this and find the summary. So I like it from that standpoint. And so what the chapter does, again, is it simply goes through and talks a little bit about these various types of antimicrobic drugs and how they specifically impact the pathogen, be it by impacting cell wall structure or construction. Does it impact the nucleic acid by preventing transcription or preventing replication? These are all topics that you have some semblance of, because we've talked about that before. Now, there's a lot of information presented here. But again, if you follow the PowerPoints that I put together, it kind of just walks you through these very logically, I think. So that's what I would say about a big chunk of this chapter. Going over drug action. Now, you don't need to know every single drug that's described in the chapter. On page 388, there's a table that talks about side effects of common drug groups. You don't have to memorize that table. But I think if you hear the term tetracycline, you should know that it's an antibacterial antibiotic. I think you should know what side effects there are. The PowerPoints talk about that. PowerPoint talks about that. I think you ought to be able to go back to that diagram that I showed you earlier and be able to know that tetracycline impacts specifically the function of the ribosome. A lot of the drugs that end in mycin, right? Vancomycin, for example. The isins, they are all related. And what makes them close relatives is really their chemistry. They share very similar subgroups within the molecule, and they talked about that there in your book in section 12.2. So I'm not going to ask you to draw any sort of chemical formula or anything like that, but you should be familiar with what's referred to as a beta-lactam ring, which is an important constituent of penicillins. So you need to get into chapter 12. Start reading it. Start going through the PowerPoint. Look at the video, PowerPoint video that's downloaded in Blackboard. Questions? As you go through this chapter and subsequent chapters, make a note on the side margin of your notebook. Ask about it. And when we get together, whatever's not making sense, ask about. Any questions? Okay, well, you can start looking at lab stuff or start getting into chapter 12. We'll plan to meet on Thursday at 1:15 like we've been doing. If you want to get together at another time besides Tuesdays and Thursdays for a half hour or 45 minutes or whatever to go over other materials, I'm happy to do that. We'd need to know kind of ahead of time what day would work. But I guess what I'm saying is if you want to meet other than those 2 times a week, I'm open to that idea. I do have A&P on Monday and Wednesday at the same time, 1:15. So that wouldn't work. Okay, last call. Questions, comments?
No.
How was your Easter break?
Good. How was yours?
Yeah, it was good. Got out fishing once. It was nice. Other than that, not much. Probably like you, kind of stayed home and didn't see relatives.
Yeah. Same.
Which is kind of too bad, but doing more Zoom and duoing. Hopefully this this COVID thing is going to remedy itself eventually. There's some signs that it appears like maybe, as you've all been hearing on the news, we're reaching a plateau in terms of the curve. The big question will be how long will we be at that plateau and how long will it take to descend the other side of the mountain? I can tell you it's not going to be the same slope as the upside shot of the mountain. It's going to be probably a more gradual slope down. Oh, the other thing I forgot to tell you guys that I posted on Blackboard is I found a really, really good YouTube video done by the University of California. There are 4 biology faculty from UC San Diego that walk you through various aspects of COVID-19 and how it differs, how it's similar to other viruses, flu viruses. So I posted that right on the lecture and lab micro and actually A&P too, Blackboard course shell. So if you want to learn more about it, because you were asking me about that before break, could we learn more about COVID? This is really, really, really good. And I'm going to suggest strongly that you check that video out.
Yeah, I saw that you posted it. I just haven't had that minute or taken the minute to watch it.
Yeah, it is about I think it's 1 hour and 20 minutes long, so it's pretty long. But just watch, 20 minutes at a time or whatever. I really truly think that you will find it extremely interesting, and you're going to be able to understand so much of what they're talking about. Having had the chapter on viruses, you're going to understand more than 90% of people that watch that. And
I've been thinking that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well,
it's not presented at a real super high level either. Of course, nobody would watch it if it was too cerebral in terms of the jargon, right? And I'm sure they wanted to, bring it down at a conversational level, but nonetheless, you guys will just get so much more out of it than most people because you know so much about what they're talking about. So go ahead.
And like you said, just not being able to be in class and stuff like that, and to be able to like have a direct conversation and all that, but just watching different things on the news and reading different articles, it's funny how much what we have learned applies so specifically to what they're saying, and you understand it so much better than we would had we not been in micro.
Yeah, I mean, we all hate to be where we are, but you know what? You're taking micro at the perfect time.
I know. That's what
You
makes
really
it so
are.
interesting.
You're not in the trenches, so you don't have to worry about the COVID issue like so many nurses are worried about. You've been seeing the news. They're scared out of their wits. Some of these poor nurses and healthcare folks because they don't have the protective instruments, and it's just tragic. You're at that lucky point where you're not being asked to go to New York and help out or whatever, feel pressure to have to do that, or seeing patients locally. And you heard in the news, Cat County numbers have gone up, spiked a little bit the last couple of days. So
Yeah.
it's definitely here. It's here. So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting time to be studying it. Things are changing, every day there's something new. It seems
True.
the CDC comes out with, guidelines that weren't there 3 weeks ago. Think of the masks now. They're saying it's probably better to wear them. Have you guys been wearing masks when you've gone out to the store or?
No,
I don't even.
Yeah, I don't. I do the Walmart pickup, so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm home. Like, I haven't been anywhere in like a month.
You haven't gotten out of your house?
Feels like around, but like no, like to the store or anything. No.
Yeah. You can leave the house.
We just do quick trips.
Uh-huh. Well, get out, take a walk, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I do take walks and stuff.
I mean,
Or
the
like
weather's,
me and my sisters would go out like on a sunny day, like play volleyball, because you just can't stay at home all day long.
no. It's good to have a routine. I mean, even if it is chaotic at home with kids, which I know some of you are dealing with, it's better to have a routine. It'll make the time go faster, and it's just kind of better for everybody's mental health if you have a bit of a routine sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last minute things you want to talk about? Otherwise, we'll break and we'll see you Thursday. Although I'm going to be talking with Emily.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'll see you guys Thursday.
All right. Have a good week.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you.
Sure.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
In a minute.
Okay, Emily.
All right. Hi.
Worked out good.
So I think I am just stressing a lot about this unknown project.
Uh-huh.
I have a lot of it done. Like I did until you talked today about it. Now I'm even more stressed because I did my introduction and it was very short.
Okay.
Like I didn't explain all of the like different tests. I kind of did that in the material or the methods and material,
That's fine.
So,
Really, either place would be fine to spend the time to describe the each test in some detail in terms of like what enzyme is breaking down what amino acid to form what byproduct.
okay.
Now, for example, the tryptophan being degraded by the tryptophanase to produce the indole. You'd add Kovacs to see if indole was produced. You know, whether you talk about that in the introduction or the materials and methods, it really is fine with me either way.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't worry about that. As long as you're at some point in one of those two sections giving ample time and attention to each test.
I mean, mine is like 14 pages right now, and I haven't even gotten to like I just finished the results, and I am going to do the discussion, but
If
I
you
also
have,
don't know if I know exactly what it is. So what if I put the wrong thing?
well, you're not going to get penalized. You're not going to get a 0 out of or a 1 out of 30 or a 2 out of 30. So don't freak out about that.
Okay.
I am looking more at the process of writing the report. How did you do not only in evaluating the idea of your unknown, which, you know, everybody wants to get that correct, but whether you get it right or wrong is not the be all and end all to the whole process. But you should use your deductive skills to, as best you can, determine what the unknown is and lay out a rationale as to why you think it is microbe X, given the flow charts, given the table, given what research you may have done online. You know, provide a compelling case as best you can for what you think the unknown is, and that's all you can do.
Okay.
So again, don't worry about that. So if you've got the materials and methods and the introduction done, and you said the results, pretty much.
Alls I have is like the discussion, and I really haven't like looked at the charts as much as I should have yet to actually figure out what, because I don't really think that we really needed to do that up until the discussion of what, like, as far as like writing the paper, that was kind of all just,
right,
you know, what we did.
Yeah. I mean, I could have waited and given you your results of the unknown today, and you could have gotten the introduction and the materials and methods already written. Absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so now it's a matter, and I've really already given you the results. So it's not like you have to do anything but put together a nice table or two, you know.
Right.
And now it's a matter of doing a little bit of research, trying to figure out based upon the results what you think your unknown is, presenting that in the discussion, and then talking a little bit about the biology of the microbe.
Okay.
And then other than the list of works cited where you list your sources, you know, you're 80% of the way there.
Okay.
It sounds to me like you've got the majority of the hard work, the grunt work, which is what it was, right? Writing that was just,
Yeah, it was not.
No, it was, you just had to plow through, you had to get it done. It was a lot of time, I know.
It did. It took,
Yeah.
I actually spent like one full day.
Yeah.
Like I woke up really early over break, and then I just kind of just plowed through the whole thing and just kept, like, I would type, and then I would go eat again because I've been eating too much, and then I'd come back and do more. So I pretty much, like yesterday, I just punched in the results of, like, I made like a nice table.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was hard for me to do, but I did the table. I haven't wrote a paper in a really long time, I feel like, so it's fun. But other than that, I just have the discussion, and I think I'm just still, I'm overwhelmed because I still have so much to do, like study-wise for the class, that I haven't really like studied much for the chapters or anything.
Yeah.
And
well, remember the report of the unknown isn't isn't due until,
Isn't it like the end of, it's
the-
like 2 weeks.
the 28th. Yeah, so,
Yeah, it's not next Monday, but or next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after.
it's
So
2 weeks from today.
Which I can't imagine if nobody started this already, because, and having to study on top of it, that's what I was more worried about than anything, was getting like the majority of it out of the way.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'll probably end up doing is I'm going to give you guys probably till May 1st. I'll give you for the rest of that following week to get it in.
Because I noticed on the one that I printed out, the instructions or whatever that I got off Blackboard, like the first day of the semester,
Yeah.
There's a different time on there than the one that you showed in your PowerPoint, the last Zoom call that we did. I think yours says 5 p.m. and the one I have says 8:30 a.m. So I was going to ask you to, like, when, I guess it doesn't matter. I know it's going to be that day, but.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't know. I don't doubt what you're saying is true. But I think what I will do, and help me remember to do this, because I've got a million stick-em notes, and I know you've got a busy life too, but I will try to make every effort to tell everybody on Thursday that the report of the unknown, make a note here, will be due 5 p.m. on Friday, May 1st. That'll be an extra 3 days. It's not a whole lot, but I need to have time to read them and get them corrected and stuff. But if if that helps alleviate any little extra time, a little less stress, that's fine. This was based upon the fact that we were going to be meeting, face to face, which we're not now, obviously. So
Okay.
we can adjust that a little bit too.
My other question, which isn't really, I don't know, microbiology. Well, it is, I guess. So I was talking to one of my other professors yesterday, and she mentioned that there was a faculty meeting on how the grading was going to be going for, they were doing like either it was a pass or fail.
Yeah.
So, and she said that they were pretty sure that that's what was going to happen, and they were going to like let everybody know about that.
Well, I think the discussion, and this is we have a faculty meeting on Friday. The last that I heard was they were going to extend the date by which a student needed to decide whether they wanted to go from a letter grade to a pass-fail, extend that through the end of May, as opposed to, I don't know what the date was prior to that time.
Okay.
So in
I was like
essence,
curious to see what that would do for me, knowing that if I
Yeah.
go into the nursing program, I'm pretty sure it's a C+ that I would have to have. Like, how would that go?
that's a question that you'll have to ask Jen or Heather or what's her name? I can't think of the new person.
Rose.
Yeah, Rose.
Yeah.
Probably Jennifer or Laura too. I don't have any sense of whether, if you were to switch from the grade to a pass-fail, if that would be kosher, if you will. I don't know that they're going to let that happen. I don't know. Maybe they will. I would be surprised if they did, but that's just my opinion. I have no idea. Maybe they're going to alter that.
Okay.
I've not heard anything specific to that, other than they're extending the date that the student has to make that call if they want to change.
I'm confused, like why they're leaving that up to the student.
It's always up to the student to decide whether they want to go from a letter grade to pass-fail. But you need to be careful when you do that, because some schools, if you switch, let's say, to a pass-fail from a letter grade, the school won't accept it. Transfer school.
Right.
They won't accept it. And it can have other potential impacts. that need to be carefully weighed. You got to think about this carefully before you make that call. The most concerning thing I would have is, again, oh yeah, it'll go toward my 60 I need for JCC because I'm getting credit for the course. But if I wanted that to transfer to UB or Gannon or Bonas, I better do my due diligence and check with my transfer school to see if indeed they will take it. Because if they don't, I got to retake it.
Right.
That's going to cost me $3,000 more bucks if I take it at Bonas, So that would be my cautionary note to any advisees who are thinking about that. I'm not saying don't do it, but do it, make the decision with the best information you
The
have.
only way I would do it is if I wasn't like at that C+, because I technically still would be passing with a
Sure.
C. You know what I
have to-
mean?
Yeah, I do. I understand exactly what you're saying.
And I think that's
but-
like
but-
one of my
but-
biggest worries.
But understand that a pass, if you go say letter grade to pass fail, to a school that sees a credit fail, we'll call it. You got credit, but technically you might have gotten less than a C grade, you still get credit. I mean, a D is passing, it doesn't transfer. So you got to make darn sure if you go that route that the nursing folks are going to accept the C credit as comparable to what you would need if you took it grade-wise.
Okay.
And I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But it's worth asking, and of course you'll have some time to make that call theoretically. You don't have to wait or make that decision right now. You could wait until after the semester's over, because I think they're letting you decide until like May 30th or 31st or whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. I mean, my hope is that
Yeah.
I just take the letter grade and I do really good
Yeah.
for the rest of the semester.
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Well,
at
you're
least.
just covering all your bases, which is what I would be doing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a smart way to do it.
Well, it's scary, I think. So just with all
Well,
the,
Emily, all you can do is your best.
I know. It's so hard. It's been so hard. I really don't. I'm like curious to see how like everyone else is just getting through it, because
Through the COVID thing?
well, just not, I mean, that and just like doing all of the things online, and I don't know. It's just
Sure.
I know I said it before, but like they keep changing stuff with the kids' school, and
Yeah.
it's so much. Like for 4th grade, they have like 5 different websites they have to access every day, and it's such a headache, to be honest. Like to get them on and get them logged on, and then if everything loads that day, and then they do all this work, and then it doesn't show that it's complete, so you're like, okay, well, I swear I'm doing this with my kids, but it just to navigate it all is like, holy cow, it takes up the majority of every day.
Wow.
So, and then now they want to change it to, like they offer paper packets, but they can't do that for every single kid in the district, because that would just be an insane amount of paperwork.
Mhm.
I requested them though, because I just think, I think that they work better with doing stuff on paper than
I agree.
than being online. It just seems, I try and limit their electronic use anyways. So
Mhm.
just to have them be on that for hours doing schoolwork, I think it's more me that it just drives me crazy. I don't like, because I don't know I can't sit and just watch over them the whole time that they're doing it. It's not,
Right.
but if they're at the table and they're doing paper work, like they're writing on the paper, then I can go back and look. I can
Yeah.
see okay, you're struggling here, I can help you here, or.
No, I understand what you're saying, and you're being just a really good parent.
Yeah.
And you hope that other parents are being as thoughtful and conscientious as you are. The reality is that, yes, there are some, but I bet there's more than half that aren't. And I'm not trying to be critical of them as parents, but they just don't have maybe the same, I don't know, mindset that you might have or I might have. So I fully hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And all you can do is your best. You provide them with what you can in terms of support and help. But you're taking classes, you're busy, you're trying to make meals, you're trying to juggle all that stuff, and it is just hellacious. I can only imagine you are exhausted physically and mentally each day.
It is. It's some days are better, but I just
Yeah.
I just kind of knew like with Monday coming that our break was over, even though I still was working through it. I was like, okay, like I have all this stuff to do, and then I make this list in my head that I've got to get all this stuff done, and then I get stressed out, and then I'm like, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually talked to their teachers, and I was like, listen, give me some recommendations and they're like, listen, if you're doing 1 to 2 hours a day with your kids and working with them, that is all you need to be doing. You don't need to be scheduling the entire day, like 9 a.m. to 10, you're doing this, 10 to 11, you're doing that. Like, let them still be kids.
Yeah.
Which I felt a lot better about, because I felt like I had to have it like boom, boom, boom. Like, okay, this is when you're going to get your stuff done. This is when I'm going to get my stuff done. We'll eat right here. And then we'll do, and it was just, I think I was making it harder for myself, but
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know. Like,
well,
I just wanted to make sure I was doing it right.
Yeah, no, you're the type that is uber organized. You're very, like me. You want it to be, you want it organized. Your life is so much calmer if you are organized.
Yeah.
And that is a really, really good trait to have. But like you, I have to sometimes say, yes, but the reality is I can't do that every day. So you got to build in some flexibility and know that the sun's going to rise, the kids are going to pass high school, they're going to get married, they're going to have happy families. You're going to get into nursing program, you're going to start working, and you're going to look back on this in 4 or 5 years and say, wow, it was horrible at the time, but I am where I am because I worked hard at it. And so you just got to keep the faith, so to speak, and you just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll get to where you want to go. I know you will.
I know I will.
You just need some support and some.
I was told that I was a perfectionist, and I was like, what? Come on, no. They're like, do you realize all the pressure you put on yourself and how perfect you want everything to go all the time? And I was like, well, okay, I get it. So I'm trying to ease up on myself and not make it,
Yeah.
I guess.
You gotta have a little chocolate for yourself once in a while,
That's right.
That's okay to have that and
Or
have
a
some
glass of
time.
wine, whatever, whichever one.
Yeah. So listen, you got a good start on the report. You really are, you got the lion's share of it done. So you've got 2.5 weeks to finish that up. You don't have to get it done by Thursday or Saturday.
Well, I would like to get it done so that maybe I can send it to you first. And then you can, I don't know, would you do that? Like read it over and send it back? Or is it just submit it and if I got it done early?
I got to think about how to answer that, because of course, if I let you do it, and if you do that, then I'm going to say, okay, 16 other people, and then I got to think about that. I think you should just do your best and turn it in.
Okay.
And don't fret about it.
Okay.
But along the way, if you have questions, we can talk about it.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to blow you off. Please don't think I am.
No, I don't think you are. I just want to pass this class so bad.
I know.
So
you just keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, that's all you can do.
Okay.
And we can meet like this after each class. We're gonna do that. We can do that, no problem.
Okay.
Or another time too. So you're not in.
Well, I watched. So I was kind of behind because I did the report all break kind of with other stuff. So this morning I got up and I watched that YouTube video for chapter 11, which helped me because I was really kind of behind with that. So I'm gonna do some of my notes for that, and then do the same with chapter 12, so that hopefully I'll have more like some better questions than just this.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Everybody's on their own timetable.
Is anyone
know,
else freaking out like I am, or is it just me?
It's people, I don't know how to read my class. That's the frustrating part to me is
Well, when nobody shows their face, I'm like, oh.
exactly. And they're muted. They're muted. I can see who's muted. I can see who's got their camera on. And I'm like, what, you know, are they checked in and they're going and they're helping their kids with the homework, or they're having dinner, or they're outside mowing the lawn? I mean, you know, are they just doing it so that they think that I think they're there? I mean, maybe I shouldn't even be so paranoid about that, but I gotta tell you, I do wonder. I don't hear a lot of feedback, so I don't know where people are.
Yeah.
And some people don't show up to the Zoom meetings. I don't know what that's all about. I can't be judgmental, but I wonder.
Yeah. I wonder too, because I feel like I have to, if I don't have like I have to like talk to you
Yeah.
by myself outside of the class. And I do that normally anyways,
Right.
out of this, but
Yeah.
I've literally called all of my teachers because if I'm not talking to them, like I want to know what's going on. Like I can't,
Sure.
I don't function well without just, I don't know.
Well, I think we all crave that guidance.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you know, this is not as good as one-to-one, but it's the best we can do, and it's not horrible.
Yeah. I mean,
You know?
it's better because I'll go and I feel better already that, you know, I'm on the right track, and just knowing, like explaining like where I'm at in your class and where your expectations of me are to be in your class, and where like I feel better about it so that I can just continue to do what I'm doing. But
Exactly.
yeah.
So, you know, just talking it over is therapeutic in and of itself, but you're getting less anxious because, you know now what you've been doing is the right thing. You've been doing the right thing. Absolutely, you've been doing the right thing.
It seems like just because we're home, I feel like I'm not doing anything though.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm used to being there. Like I drop my kids off at school and I show up at campus and I leave at 2:30 and I get home just in time to get them. So Monday through Friday, that's what I did. And now I'm home and I'm like, it's hard. It's like hard to get stuff done. So I feel like I'm behind, but I'm not really.
Yeah, that's right.
So
It's just a different scenario completely.
yes, for sure.
Well,
But,
you keep doing what
okay.
you're doing.
Well, thank you for talking to me.
Absolutely.
And I will probably email you again.
Okay. Otherwise, I will see you on Thursday.
Okay, sounds good. Thank
Okay,
you.
Emily, you bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye.